Welcome back to the United Pubcast for your match review. Man United 1, West Ham 0. Now, Larry, I've just been informed, a little bit slow and a little bit behind the times, that it is Halloween. Not that we celebrate Halloween too much in Australia, but a few trick-or-treaters I did see when I was walking the dog a little bit earlier. So talk me through your day in regards to starting off the day starting off the week with a Man United win, then ultimately ruined by the idiots you see walking around celebrating Halloween.
Look, Tom, I mean, it's almost as bad as celebrating the league behind closed doors. I mean, let me ask you then, who looks more stupid, people who celebrate Halloween or people who celebrate winning a league title and they can't even do it in the stadium?
Well, that league title, which I assume you're referring to, honestly doesn't count. There should be an asterisk for numerous reasons. One, no one saw it. Two, they changed the rules with still a quarter of the season to go. So Liverpool are still on 18 titles. Not that they're going to be getting any closer this season, because we are going to touch on Manchester United and how good we've been, sort of thing, and sort of climbing up the ladder and 3 points here, 3 points there. Liverpool can't buy 3 points at the moment. Nottingham Forest, Leeds United. Just before we get into the Manchester United discussion, just a little bit of time on Liverpool. Talk to me about them.
All smiles, mate. All smiles. Honestly, they're a shambles. It's so good to watch. The best part is I don't know how they fix it, and that fills me with joy. They've got injuries, but I don't think injuries. Honestly, I think they've lost their fire. I think they've come close so many times that.
Do you think it's this in regards to maybe Jurgen Klopp and maybe just a natural, not to criticise, but a cycle coming to an end, or are you seeing a potential thing like Manchester United with American owners? Sir Alex Ferguson papered over cracks for so long. Jurgen Klopp, as a fantastic manager, papered over cracks for so long. And suddenly, okay, potentially one or two things, no real proper investment and replacing your stars. Look how we replaced Ronaldo with Michael Owen and Gabriel Obertan. They've replaced Sadio Mane with Darwin Núñez. Is there a thing in terms of maybe that ownership model sort of surface into the top and sort of seeing what the real problems are?
I think it's twofold. One aspect is exactly what you've said, but the other aspect is I think they're a side that was really, really good, but not quite good enough. Thus, they've been finishing second time and time again, getting to Champions League finals, not getting over the final hurdle. I just think that they're clearly lacking something, and I think that side, regardless of their success or lack thereof, has reached the end of its cycle. So now for Jurgen Klopp to keep the motivation of these players going, because a lot of the majority of that squad time has come second time and time and time again. So the motivation to get up emotionally season after season, it's difficult. I think he needs to refresh the squad. And, I want to keep this. Of course, I always love ripping into Liverpool, but I think Jurgen Klopp is a good manager. And I think he needs to be backed now to overturn that squad. Now, to your point, I don't believe Liverpool, like Manchester United's owners, won't offer the type of investment that would need to see them do that. So it might be that Klopp actually ends up walking away at the end of the season. Let me ask you this before we focus on United. Do you think it's too much now for Liverpool to make the top four? Because I'm willing to say top four is gone for them.
It's hard to tell. I think we overreact, and that's in regards to relegations or Arsenal title challenge or Liverpool tops four race. I think we overreact. But they win 2 games, and whoever's in fourth loses 2 games is a different picture, and that's going to happen throughout the season. So at the moment, if you're looking at it and looking at how other teams are performing and how Liverpool perform, you would say there's a very good chance they can't make the top 4. And fingers crossed that is the case. But I think that's something we do have to sort of look at maybe after the January transfer window, after the World Cup, and see what type of investment is there. But we'll address a few guys in the live chat before we get into Manchester United stuff, because I assume that is what everyone is here for. But if you are enjoying the sort of Liverpool bashing, make sure you tune in next week as well for the latest instalment. I think they've actually got a tough game next week. I think it might be away at Tottenham, Fingers crossed Antonio Conte and Harry Kane can get the job done. But Stephen here, good to see you, mate. Yeah, in regards to Salah, in terms of maybe that was that decision, Salah over Mane, it'll be interesting. But he's just catching up on the game now. It's the first time I've been able to catch the podcast live. Always a pleasure to have you, mate. Do get your thoughts in regards to all the topics we get into. And Jamie, good to see you over in Northern Ireland. Yeah, apologies to anyone who does celebrate Halloween. Just not our thing. If you do enjoy it, crack on, and hopefully you got what you needed.
But trick-or-treaters come to your door, Tom.
Now, when I saw them circling around the house, that's when I took the dog for a walk. So maybe they knocked on the door, but I wasn't home, so I dodged them. Tactical genius, like Erik ten Hag. But on Erik ten Hag's Reds, Larry, the performance maybe wasn't there when you compare it to previous results. So we'll get into individual performance and everything. However, it's a one of the most more pleasing victories for me. Now we'll get into what was different with the performance, why wasn't it as good, but in regards to the challenges the team faced and the manager and the individual players faced, we got through it. In that last 20 minutes, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a little bit more detail, I was sitting there just going, look, the goal's coming. I've almost accepted a draw because I've been so used to that in previous seasons where you could see the goal coming. You could see the goal coming. There's an acceptance. Okay, they're gonna bundle one over the line eventually because they're going to get what they deserve. At the end of the day, on a balance of play, you could almost argue West Ham deserved a point out of the thing, and that's so often the case in terms of Man United's time the last couple of years. Teams get to the deserved equalisers, and I just thought, yep, West Ham are going to get their goal here. But Man United fought through performances, through potential tactics by Erik ten Hag, and got the job done. And as I say, it wasn't a swashbuckling football, but I was actually probably more pleased with this over some of the other results.
Yeah, I agree with you. The sign of a good side, Tom, is the ability to win in different ways. Of course, every fan of every team wants to see their side in the ascendancy, being dominant, keeping the ball, etc. But there are two teams to a games of football, and West Ham are a difficult side. We've seen that time and time again over the last few seasons, particularly under the leadership of David Moyes. And it's a fixture that we've struggled with as recently as last season. So you have to say it is a pleasing result. And we have to say that in terms of Harry Maguire coming in for Raphael Varane, Harry Maguire obviously hasn't played a lot of football. His confidence has been low. So I think that today's performance for him on an individual level, but also as a team, will do him a world of good. And we have to say, Martinez and Maguire, the last time they partnered together in a defence, United conceded 5. So I think all in all, you have to be pleased with the centre-back level of depth there. And David De Gea showing us for all the criticisms, and, I maintain that he's got limitations to his game. He showed us why, though, he is still so reliable when called upon. He secured United 3 points today. So definitely happy with the result. It's these games where, I'm not saying United are going to go on to win the league, Tom, but it's these games where we've seen in the past that this is what wins you premierships. You're not going to be up every game. And considering the lack of rotation, I think it's a very pleasing performance.
Well, the point you make on De Gea, we'll get into that in a little bit. I'm sure his name will dominate the 3-2-1 discussion. So do get your thoughts in on David De Gea's performance, and not only the performance, the situation around him. And I'll go to one or two Erik ten Hag quotes I think will be interesting to bring up as well. But Larry, an hour before kickoff, starting 11 comes through as always. Now, maybe you can't read too much into it in regards to illness, in regards to, I forget the issue with Anthony. I heard Victor Lindelof was ill. Not sure the issue with Anthony, whether that was an illness or picked up a slight knock. If anyone can correct me in the chat, feel free. So I don't know if there's too many talking points in regards to decision-making with those two missing out. But Harry Maguire comes in. And on the right-hand side, Anthony Elanga came in. Now, do you think Anthony Elanga over Jadon Sancho was Erik ten Hag giving Anthony Elanga a chance over Jadon Sancho or a Garnacho, or do you think it's in the spirit of rotation, keeping everyone happy, keeping minutes in the legs, and sort of with a view to potentially Europa League and 2 games against Aston Villa? Just your thoughts on the potential, or not the potential, the 1 or 2 changes we did see through force in Erik ten Hag's hand.
Did Sancho play midweek, Tom? Can you remind me?
Midweek, talk to me. What was that, Sheriff? I don't think he did against Sheriff, was he? Yeah, no, Garnacho. It was Garnacho and
started.
Yeah.
So it's confusing with Sancho. That's 2 games on the bounce, not starting. Clearly, Ten Hag wants to see more from him. And I have to say, it's probably warranted, isn't it? I mean, he hasn't not been poor, but just playing within himself. But I think not to come on at all is pretty damning. Unless we'll see if he starts midweek against Real Sociedad or not. But nonetheless, Elanga coming in looked good. I thought good performance, squad player. Came in and did his job well, ran well, played with a good intensity, and that's what Elanga gives you, isn't it? And can I say, I know we'll get into 3-2-1s, but Rashford, I mean, I know George has been on here quite vocal about not seeing Rashford as a number 9. 2 games in a running, scoring headers. And today's header reminded me of Ronaldo in the Champions League final against Chelsea. Very similar style. Terms of getting on the back of his defender and powerful.
And not to be critical. First of all, huge congratulations to Rashford. Look, he's no short of criticism on this podcast. But first of all, one for any player to reach 100 goals for Man United, but secondly, a Man United Academy product come through, reach 100 goals. A fantastic effort. So nothing but praise Marcus Rashford. He potentially, I know De Gea's performance, maybe shoe in for 3 points, in my opinion, just in regards to the occasion. But in regards to not to downplay Marcus Rashford's heading ability over the last couple of weeks, but in regards to the weekly debate, is he a striker or is he a left winger? Here we go. In regards to the header. But in regards to, I woke up onto a lot of my timeline was filled with, see, I told you Rashford was more clinical than Ronaldo. And I was thinking, well, hang on. Okay, he's in a bit of better goal scoring form at the moment. I wouldn't go that far. But in regards to that header, not so much the one midweek. I think the one midweek was a brilliant header. Obviously, a good cross by Luke Shaw. But this one, in terms of this heading, and is he a number 9 because he shows his heading ability now, in my opinion, not to isolate so specific instances, we can sort of pin them down and give sort of specific reasons for every single goal scored by every player across the world of football. It's a header that he can score from the left because he's not pinned up against a centre-back in terms of back to goal and muscle. He's up against a full-back with a running start from the left-hand side. That's not to say, okay, that's proof that he's better on the left than he is through the middle. But I think that is a header where he, as Ronaldo scored that goal in the Champions League final, was pinned up against Michael Essien, who was playing right back for Chelsea, not up against the John Terry or Ricardo Carvalho. Marcus Rashford wasn't up against the two centre-backs who was at Zuma and probably Dawson for West Ham. He was pinned up against and got a running start on their right back, obviously. Right backs aren't going to be as aerially dominant as a centre back. So that is where I think we saw that. And first of all, have you ever seen Marcus Rashford attack a ball like that in terms of in the air? I think the confidence he showed to go and do that, that's what scored the goal. It wasn't so much, it was a brilliant header. It wasn't so much the technique of the header, or it wasn't the cross, which was a brilliant cross by Christian Eriksen. It was the desire by Marcus Rashford to go and get on the end of it.
No, I agree with you, and I agree with all your sentiments and maintain that he absolutely he's a left winger. But what I will say is, if he had that heading ability against Newcastle, I think United are sitting pretty in terms of the Premier League table. But nonetheless, like I said, 2 headers in 2 consecutive games will only do himself a world of confidence. And congratulations on 100 goals for Marcus Rashford.
Before we get into one or two other talking points and we sort of get into the 3-2-1, Stephen here saying, just saw Rashford's century. Can we talk about that cross from Eriksen? First of all, okay, have your word on the actual cross. It was a brilliant ball by Christian Eriksen from the right-hand side. Ultimately, though, Christian Eriksen and Casemiro, I wouldn't say they had bad games or poor games. It was just, they were sloppy. And it didn't prove costly. And I think they, as I said, they weren't poor in the game, just in very uncharacteristic mistakes by both players. And I just thought Harry Maguire got singled out for a lot of criticism in regards to positioning at times. And I thought, well, okay, if you take a still grab of it and a screenshot of a pitch, yes, Harry Maguire was out of position. But why was he out of position? Casemiro and Eriksen, again, I thought were fine in the game, but lost the ball in some dangerous areas. And I think that was a huge sort of reason in regards to the sort of subpar performance across the team. It was those two who were usually so careful with the ball. Thought a little bit besides that cross, a little bit off the pace today.
Yeah, I'm concerned on the over-reliance of Casemiro at the moment, Tom. It's funny. He was sat on the bench, and since he's come in, I think he started every single game since he started. Since the Everton match, or it might have been in the Europa League. But every game he's come in since the Manchester derby, he has started every single match. And he's playing big minutes every single game too. And I just think there's a bit of over-reliance there. I think there's an opportunity to rest him at times. So, let McTominay deputise for him, or maybe not Fred, not in that deeper spot.
Do we overthink that as fans? Like, does De Bruyne get rest for Man? No, I'm sure he does at times, but did Roy Keane get rest for Man United under Australia? No, I know the game has different demands now, obviously, and Casemiro's age and everything, but do we sort of read too much into it as fans in terms of just...
I think that it depends on the player's position, Tom. Casemiro covers so much ground, just being a number 6. And the other thing with Manchester City, they've got the benefit of keeping the ball, so that the movement off the ball isn't as relied upon. United aren't yet a possession-dominant side. I haven't seen the stats for this match. I'll actually try and bring them up as we go along. But United aren't this team that's keeping 70% of the ball in the Premier League. And until we become that side, and you're relying on us,
we're getting closer to that. We're getting a lot closer to that, though.
We are. But it's progressive, And I just think because of that, there has to be a rotation of Casemiro. 30 is not old, and I don't like this term "lose their legs." It's lazy. But in saying that, there's still an over-reliance on Casemiro. I think he's played 6 or 7 games starting on the bounce. There has to be a bit more rotation there.
Well, wait till we get into the right-back discussion. And Diogo Dalot, he hasn't played every single minute, but he's starting every single game. And I think his name will come up in the 3-2-1s as well. But before we move into that, in terms of usually dominated every single discussion we had last year. His name hasn't come to the headlines this year. Obviously, he's been out injured, but the club captain has come back into the team. Harry Maguire got his start, took the captain's armband. Whether you want to bring that up in discussion, feel free. But ultimately, look, I don't think the performance was down. I could see the headlines up there. We played like this because Harry Maguire played and Cristiano Ronaldo played up front. So we can't play with these two players. I can see that. I don't think the performance was down to a tactical thing or a systemic thing in regards to the way Ten Hag lined up and the individuals in terms of the way they make us play. I thought the way the game unfolded was down to individuals and bad touches and bad passes. I think that's what the sort of how West Ham got into the game. I don't think it was Harry Maguire making us play 10 yards deeper. I think we're playing 10 yards deeper because we're losing the ball so often. So we're doing a lot more defending. So just in regards to Harry Maguire's performance, because he hasn't dominated the discussion, we've got nothing to say about him over recent weeks because he hasn't been playing. But he is back in the team. And look, ultimately, it wasn't Varane and Martinez. But ultimately, he got the job done. And I thought it was shaky on the ball, a little bit sloppy on the ball. Whether we can put that down to rustiness, I think if it's another play, we would. With Harry Maguire, I think we'll be a little bit more critical of him. But ultimately, I thought, especially the last 20 minutes, maybe we don't get the win in the last 20 minutes in terms of the deliveries West Ham were putting into the box. He came up big a few times. So just your thoughts on, in general, in his performance.
I thought he was above average. I think he looked a little bit shaky at times, but I expect that from any player who's lacking confidence, particularly defenders. I feel sorry for defenders when they're going through a confidence spell. You know, if you're a winger, you can hide that a little bit. You can just keep the ball, have a tidy game, the way Sancho's been playing, if you're a winger lacking confidence. But if you're a defender and you're lacking confidence, the room for error is greater. And then that's the problem. There's nowhere to hide as a centre-back particularly. So I feel a little bit sorry for Maguire in that sense. But in saying that, Tom, I think keeping a clean sheet will do his confidence a world of good. You don't have to be... I know United, and I've come on here and I've said it too, and ultimately I do think when we're talking about long-term, I don't think Maguire will be a Manchester United player. But if he's going to fulfill a position in the squad, I think there is a time to use him. And a side like West Ham, who do shoot from range and have a bigger side and a more physical striker in Antonio and Scamacca, there is a time for a Harry Maguire, who is a quite physical player, put his head, particularly in, like you said, that final 5 minutes or so, he got his body there. So all in all, got to say a solid performance for the captain. I'm not going to get into the debate on the armband. I think that's just a matter of where Maguire, how long he's going to be at the club or not. But as he's, you know, with all due respect, as his playing time is marginalized, I think you will find that, you know, obviously the armband will be stripped if he is around next season or not.
Well, my next point is going into the 3-2-1. So if you're in the live chat, get ready to, because it will cause a little bit of, not controversy, but a little bit of discussion, because I think there's one or two plays worthy of a shout. But Larry, any sort of talking points in regards to the games, whether it be a refereeing decision or a moment that stood out that you want to discuss, whether it be from West Ham or from us, or crack on with the 3-2-1s?
No, not particularly. I think, look, United just got the job done. And what I will say is that's a game we 100% lose last season. I will, and again, credit where it's due, we kept another clean sheet. And that's the biggest credit I can give to Ten Hag. You can, when you're a new manager, you can either set up to score lots of goals, which is what, if you remember when Jurgen Klopp came into Liverpool, they were scoring, but they were conceding. They left themselves quite open. Ten Hag has clearly taken a back forward approach where he's thinking, actually, I'm going to tidy things up at the back first. If we keep clean sheets, we can give us a better opportunity of scoring goals. And I think that's proven to be the right way to approach it. You know, the amount of clean sheets is pleasing. And what I will say is, and obviously just transitioning into 3-2-1s, I love Lisandro Martinez, Tom.
Oh, no shortage of love here. I think absolutely brilliant player. What he's doing on and off the field, I think he's been a breath of fresh air and a huge reason for your performances. I just think the energy that he brings, both to the playing group and also to the fans at Old Trafford, in terms of that support. Maybe that support isn't there in that last 20 minutes last season in terms of getting them over the line. But I think what that back four, especially Varane, Martinez, Diogo Dalot, etc., David De Gea, is always a bit of a fan favourite. They are providing an energy for the fans to feed off, and I think it is helping. Because there was that nervous tension. If that nervous tension was there last season, I do think West Ham bundle one over the line. But thank God it sort of stayed in our favour this time. But we'll crack on the 3-2-1s in the live chat. And as you can see, the banner along the bottom has the current scores. Now, it doesn't have today's scores in regards to adding points up. You can see Martinez is leading on 16 points. Christian Eriksen close behind on 15. then a bit of a gap to Rafael Varane on 9 points. So it is interesting because there's Marcus Rashford on 6 points. I'm sure he'll be up for points, and if he gets a 3, he moves right up the ladder in regards to those. Varane can't get points today. So Larry, 3-2-1s. I was thinking at the start of this video, or at the start when we were sort of preparing the stream, I was thinking, look, 100 goals for Marcus Rashford, match-winning goal. Whatever we thought of his performance, I thought was fine. Not a great performance, not a bad performance. It is what it is. But ultimately, match-winning goal, 100 goals, giving the 3 points. But the more I think about it, and I do want to give Rashford the 3 points because, by God, I've been so critical of him in the past couple of years. I want to sort of buck that trend and sort of get back on the Marcus Rashford train. But I look at the importance of David De Gea. I think it's hard not to say David De Gea wasn't man of the match. And if he is, and in terms of saving us, it's hard to say those saves weren't more pivotal than the goal. Now, obviously, the goal wins the game, but it's an interesting shout. De Gea or Rashford? Or are you throwing another name in the hat?
I'm all for De Gea. Marcus gets the winning goal, but United aren't in a position to win the game if it's not for De Gea. And that's how I look at it. Crucial saves time and time again. And coming out of his box to clear the ball, which I'm loving seeing from De Gea.
That was my next point in regards to De Gea. Look, we demand a few things from these players, and the one thing there's two things we say: give your all, which is another debate with Marcus Rashford, but give your all, a fight for the badge. So that's one thing. And another thing we always say, regardless of the play, we're having a discussion with Cristiano Ronaldo at the moment. If you don't want to be here, leave. And that's something we label at every single player at every single time throughout history of supporting it. If you don't want to be here, leave. So this thing with De Gea at the moment, in regards to, there is a bit of sort of discussion around his future and should we give him a contract? What's best for De Gea? What does Erik Ten Hag want? There's so much discussion around David De Gea at the moment. And we're looking at Cristiano Ronaldo, and not to criticise Ronaldo, but we would use this to criticise him. Is he going to change his game for Erik Ten Hag, or does Ronaldo just want to play Ronaldo's game? And the answer is obviously Ronaldo's game. He's not going to change for anyone. And we could sit here as Man United fans and say, well, he really should change because it's for the benefit of the team, not the individual. So that is a stick we were sort of, I think, rightly used to beat Ronaldo with. But we look at David De Gea. The one thing he is doing, whether you think he's good enough or not good enough, the one thing he is doing is fighting to stay at United. He knows he has to change. So he's changing his style of play, and it's very sort of hard to sort of dissect that in regards to a goalkeeper. It's not a fullback or a striker in terms of changing their game. He has visibly changed what he's doing as a goalkeeper. And what that tells me is he wants to stay at Man United. Now, does he want to stay at Man United because that's where he's going to get his highest wage? Or does he want to stay at Man United because he loves the club? In this winning mode Manchester United are in, I'd like to think, and obviously his past history with Man United, I'd like to think that's because he loves the club and wants to stay Man United's goalkeeper. And that is, one, I'll praise a player for working hard. That's bare minimum. But the other bare minimum we ask of these players is show that you want to be here. And De Gea is telling me that.
Yeah, 100% agree. Couldn't say it any better myself, Tom.
What do you think happens with De Gea then? Okay, we'll give him 3 points. I think Stephen here as well agrees. David De Gea for 3 points, Rashford for 2 points, and Harry Maguire for 1 point. Interesting shout. But on that David De Gea situation at the moment, there is a little bit of rumours. I haven't seen the guy play. Diego Costa, I think he's the Porto keeper. I haven't seen him play, to be honest. There's a lot of talk around him in regards to United quite keen and having 1 or 2 scouts sort of monitor the situation. David De Gea has got an interesting contract situation in regards to the club would be willing to give him a contract, potentially at reduced wages. In regards to what Erik Ten Hag wants, what David De Gea is producing, what he can produce, or what another goalkeeper could sort of bring to the team, just your latest feelings. Now, that the feelings could change if one rolls through the legs next week and we're having a different De Gea discussion. But as things stand now, the latest on De Gea for you?
I don't think he'll stay. The reason I say that is I think United are playing a very smart PR game here. What I suspect is happening is it'll come to from United's point of view, Tom, it's going to be, well, we offered David De Gea a contract. He didn't want to keep it, and he'll be villain number 1. But the reality is, the figures that he'll be offered. The problem is he accepted such a massive contract to stay. And I just think anything that United offer now is going to be substantially lower than that. And I just wonder how that'll rub De Gea. If let's say they offer him, for argument's sake, £200,000 a week. When you're earning 375, I don't know if I don't know how that sits.
Could you see a situation where he accepts that? Because I agree with you. No, why would you? You wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe it's my love for De Gea, maybe blinding my view of this. Money would say he wouldn't accept it, that he would move on. He'd say, thanks, but no thanks, I'll look elsewhere. But there is a small part of me saying that he would potentially accept that. And we're seeing that with the change in, not that in regards to the finances, but we're seeing a huge desire to play for Man United in regards to the way he's changing his game. So again, very unlikely that he'll accept half in his wages. But Juan Mata, a fellow Spaniard, did sort of take a very significant wage decrease as well in the past to stay at the club. So I'm just thinking it's probably not out of the realms of possibility that he does accept a reduced wage.
Well, I guess the counter argument to that is, where does he get a higher demand? If United offered him £200,000 per week, is he going to get a higher offer elsewhere? I'd argue he wouldn't. So, I mean, he can only step down from here. So I think it's all in United's court. Ultimately, it will come down to, does Ten Hag really want De Gea, or does he look to a long-term replacement? So I guess that's what will be interesting. I guess if you're Ten Hag and seeing what you're getting out of De Gea at the moment, maybe you take the gamble of, okay, you know what? I want to rebuild the squad. If I get Diogo Costa, I need to pay £52 million. Do I need to invest elsewhere? Do I keep David De Gea around for another 2-3 years and then look to invest that money elsewhere and then look to get another goalkeeper after that? So it'll be really interesting to see what United choose to do and what Ten Hag prioritizes in terms of the evolution of his squad.
Be interesting as well, and people sort of unfortunately take a little bit of glee in this, but wasn't included in the Spanish 55-man squad for Spain. Thought a bit weird. I understand, okay, no, doesn't play out the ball like Edison and Allison, but I think you see a performance like that in regards to Erik Ten Hag. I don't have the quotes in front of me, but Erik Ten Hag came up with some quotes in regards to, it was music to my ears, what I've been saying for so long. When David De Gea came in, again, the game has changed, but 10 years ago when he came into the team, he was the best ball-playing goalkeeper in the league. Now, yes, that was 2011, 2012. I understand the game has changed, but I always made the case that he's not as bad with his feet as a lot of people made out. I think his ball so often has been, his main ball has been try and hit Fellaini 70 yards away on the chest. If that's not on, try and hit Marcus Rojo, who's got his wrong body shape, or try and hit Matteo Darmian on the chest, who doesn't want the ball, or he hits a beautiful ball out to Ashley Young, but he bobbles it out over a throw. And so I think his passes have looked a little bit worse than what they are. But Erik Ten Hag came out with a quote in regards to what Casemiro is bringing to the team, and that David De Gea can play with his feet in regards to he's provided better options. He's got players who want the ball, players who are receiving the ball in the right positions. And look, Erik Ten Hag's probably not his ideal keeper. I fully understand and accept that. But I think Erik Ten Hag, and maybe I'm blinded in terms of this is what I want to believe, but it has come true, or not fully true, but in regards to Erik Ten Hag is viewing it the same way that I do, in my opinion, in regards to Lisandro Martinez, Rafael Varane, Diogo Dalot, whether that be Marcio, Casemiro, etc., receiving the ball off David De Gea. It is helping De Gea compared to what he has had to deal with in previous seasons.
Yeah, that's for sure. And that's the thing. I'm looking at the relationship that those players all have together.
There's a plan playing out from the back. You can see what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. And all those players seem to have built a good relationship. I don't think you can understate that either. When there's a good chemistry between, the Spanish-speaking players, do you disrupt that by bringing another goalkeeper in? It's not just about being a good player. You need relationships on the pitch and off the pitch. Yeah. So if De Gea has a good relationship with these players, then that's something that Ten Hag also needs to consider.
No, very valid shout. I agree completely. Ryan here, good to see you, mate. David De Gea for 3 points, Luke Shaw for 2, and Delaware Martinez for 1.
He has to get the 1 point, Tom. He was brilliant.
Well, we'll go Marcus Rashford for 2 points. So agree on that?
Yeah, Rashford for 2, absolutely.
Match-winning goal. I think this is what we had a discussion earlier in regards to Shaw or Dalot. You're going Luke Shaw, I'm going Diogo Dalot. In regards to weighing up a performance, yeah, I think Luke Shaw performed better than Dalot. And what we view as a performance is what they do on the ball, how they look as a footballer.
There's nothing else to say.
Those headers at the back post by Diogo Dalot, yes, big saves by De Gea, big headers by Harry Maguire. Dalot saved a lot of chances at the back post.
Do you not expect that, though? I think Shaw's
last year I probably wouldn't expect it. Last year probably not.
Yeah, because United performed so poorly. But if you look at the blocks that Shaw made, that was actually defensive capability. That was putting your feet in the right place, not losing your man. I expect my defender to get his head to the ball. And that's the difference. And that's not to discredit anything that Dalot did. Of course, he contributed to the clean sheet. But if I look at the way Luke Shaw had to defend, that required to be intelligent, not be outdone by his winger. That's where I think that's where you want your defender to, because Luke Shaw, everything positive in his performances, Tom, has been with the ball. Today, he showed us his capability in one-on-one defending. One-on-one defending is when that's what you pay the big money to your defenders for. That's where you as a defender gets found out, or you show you've got what it takes. So for me, because Shaw didn't get outdone in a one-on-one position, when we kept a clean sheet, in a game where we get the 3 points, I think the Englishman.
Yeah, no, look, it's hard to argue. And look, it's a flip of a coin for me in regards to those two. I'll look at the impact in that. And again, maybe that last 20 minutes is clouding my judgment in regards to if I weigh up the 90 minutes of Harry Maguire, I think probably a 5 or 6 out of 10. If I weigh up that last 20 minutes of Harry Maguire, it's an 8 out of 10. And I think that's where I'm thinking that Diogo Dalot sort of really stood up and I'd say maybe sort of expected and standard, but we didn't expect that, and they weren't reaching the standard last year. So that is where I look at Diogo Dalot. But in regards to the whole performance, I do agree Luke Shaw is worthy of a shout. So I would give him the points. So we'll go David De Gea for 3 points, Marcus Rashford for 2, and Luke Shaw for 1. And as you can see down that ticket banner at the bottom, those are the current standings. We'll add those points to De Gea and Rashford and Luke Shaw for next week's episode or the next episode we do. Ryan here, is it just me or is Elanga not good as we all think? He's so ineffective in the game. I can't see him being the new Marcus or Greenwood from the academy. I remember my thoughts. I think I did a video straight after the Atletico Madrid game last season where he scored, not the winner, the equaliser. And there was a lot of hype around Anthony Elanga. And look, I really like what he brings to the squad. I think he's a good player. I think, I wouldn't say underrated because I don't think, as I kind of agree with Ryan, I probably don't think he is good enough. But I think he's maybe underrated in what he physically brings to the team. I think that's why Erik Ten Hag brings him in regards to do a job here and there. So I think he does offer something in regards to being that superstar, or not even a superstar, being that next player to come through and break through and have a great career. I don't think that's him. And I made that point clear when there was a lot of hype around his coming through. I thought, yeah, I like the energy, but I think a lot of that hype came from Man United fans' desire and in desperate need of having some type of enjoyment. Everything was so bad. Everyone was doom and gloom. Here's his young academy product coming through. It gave us a little bit of hope. It gave a little bit of ray of sunshine. And that's where I think a lot of the hype and excitement came from, where I think if we sort of took a step back then, I think we'd realise he probably doesn't have the quality to sort of kick on and have a great career in regards to potentially what Rashford and so are capable of. But I think Anthony Elanga is doing his job. I think almost along the lines of potentially you could argue Scott McTominay or Fred. Come in, do a job. Okay, now you'll be out for 2 or 3 weeks, but can you come in and play 60 minutes against Aston Villa in the League Cup and give Anthony a rest sort of thing? So I'm happy with Anthony Elanga this season, but ultimately I do agree with Ryan in terms of if you're putting a Champions League winning squad together, maybe not high on the list.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think you'll find, Ryan, by the end of the season, I think Garnacho replaces Elanga's position in the squad. And look, that's just my opinion. And obviously, Garnacho's got more footballing ability about him than Elanga. So I think in a season or two's time, I think Elanga won't be a United player, with all due respect. And obviously, I hope he does. And if he finds another level to kick on, then that's great. It means he's benefited and United have benefited. But he does seem a little bit short.
Well, it's a good problem to have if we're having discussions about those players who are coming in and getting the job done in regards to performances like this. That's a good thing. If we're coming in and losing 1-0 to West Ham or getting the draw, the discussion is about the squad not being good enough. But if we're talking about these squad players, how can we improve just 5% here or there? I think that is a good problem to have. But before we wrap up, Larry, in regards to, we touched a little bit on Liverpool at the start in regards to sort of heaping on the excitement in regards to their potential downfall. Manchester United are doing the opposite of a downfall at the moment. We're climbing the ladder in regards. Only a couple of games now to go until the World Cup. I think we've got 3 games left in the league. Or 2. I think we've got Aston Villa. I think we've got 4 games left. I think we've got Sociedad, Villa twice, and Fulham. So I think that's 2 games in the league. I think Aston Villa and Fulham in the league. Are you reading anything into a mental thing in regards to it's important to be in the top 4 when the World Cup comes around, or it's not a disaster or in 5th? Like, do you think there is a mental thing in regards to whether that be Man United in the top 4 or in Arsenal in the title race? Does Arsenal need to be top to have any chance, sort of thing? Like, just your thoughts in regards to going into this World Cup.
No, I don't think it's a must for United. Because of the World Cup, it's going to be... I think it's being understated how big this is going to impact the Premier League table, because you've got the mental and the emotional impact coming off a tournament like that, which is the pinnacle for a lot of players in their careers. So what the impact will be of that, I think what could deter United or push United on is how deep do our best players go into the World Cup. I think ultimately that's what's going to...
I think we're going to get a winner. I think one of our players is going to lift the World Cup. I don't know who, but I could see in terms of you go through the nations we're represented there, I can see Man United player lifting it. Absolutely.
And, so if Rashford goes to the World Cup, and you have to say based on current form, you suspect he would. If he has a massive World Cup, I think, that sort of form can push United absolutely beyond. But it's way too early. But by the time we go behind closed doors, you still got more than half the season to play out. So it's way too early to tell.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, look, we'll definitely be bringing plenty of content I think it'll be Man United related content in and around the World Cup situation. In regards to, we'll definitely be having daily or every couple of days we'll be doing a show in and around the World Cup. Harry Maguire lifting it. Look, it wouldn't shock you in regards to how weird the world of football is at the moment. England and Harry Maguire World Cup final. As stupid as it sounds, you can kind of see it. Hannibal here. Obviously, Hannibal will be playing against Australia. Borcho, good to see you, mate, from the football capital. Hannibal will be playing against Australia. Obviously, got Christian Eriksen will be playing against Australia as well. And obviously the French. And I don't think Anthony Martial will be going with the French team. But obviously got Rafael Varane, fingers crossed, will be fit. Obviously the Paul Pogba situation, which we haven't even discussed this season because of his injury. It'll be interesting if he goes. But one, Larry, before we wrap up, your tip for the World Cup. Now, I'm not sure if we've discussed this before and you've given me this and I just haven't remembered. One, give me your tip for the World Cup into who you think, but also in terms of not playing players off against each other, but also I want, if you could pick one Man United player to win the World Cup that you'd like to see, obviously would like to see all of them win it, but is there a player you would like to see go all the way?
I've got a South American feel, Tom. I don't know why. Not based on squads or anything, but I just got a feeling. We haven't had a South American side win since Brazil in 2002. And I've got a feeling. I'm leaning towards Brazil, Argentina. Don't ask me why. It's just my hunch.
I had a look at the draw, and Portugal and Argentina are on opposite sides of the draw. So it is possible for Portugal, Argentina. Now, could you just imagine how that would sort of play out in that final?
That'd be amazing.
Could you imagine? Could you think of a bigger sporting event in world football if that was the case?
No,
in world sport, I mean?
It would be phenomenal. And David Ornstein's broken the story. Messi looks like he might go to Inter Miami. So truly, if Messi does leave Europe, it's truly an end of the greatest rivalry we've seen in professional sport, in my opinion.
Would it put and look, it's a very subjective argument, fully understand that, and of course it would remain subjective. But in regards to having debates at the pub like we often do, would that draw a line in the sand and really put an end to the debate if it was a Portugal-Argentina final?
Of course it wouldn't.
No, but would it be like Man United in terms of we have more titles than whoever? Like, no matter what the case, we can just say we've got more titles. It doesn't matter, and we can win that argument. If one had a World Cup against the other one, surely it would just. Yes, of course, it would remain a subjective discussion. I fully understand that.
Yeah, but it wouldn't. I mean, let me point it this way: if Ronaldo wins the World Cup, Messi fans will say he's got more Ballon d'Ors, though. Like you just, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It would just be amazing to see that. I'd love it because I'd obviously like Portugal to do well, obviously for Ronaldo. But also got Bruno and Diego Dalot as well. But then if it's a Portugal-Argentina final, I'd be rooting for Portugal. But then obviously a love for Lisandro Martinez will get in the way. You'd love to see him win the World Cup. So we'll be tied and sort of tested in regards to our loyalty as Man United fans throughout the World Cup. But it's not far away, only 2 weeks away sort of thing. So it will be an interesting time. But Larry, anything else Man United related before I send you to sleep?
Excuse me, Tom. No, I think we're good. It'll be really just interesting to see how Ten Hag manages the games between now and the break, because we've got 4 games in a very small window of time. So we've got 2 weeks before we go before we go to the World Cup. So,
what's more important for Erik Ten Hag, Sociedad or the 2 Premier League games?
I'm going to say it all. He needs to finish top of the group if he can, because that's going to impact how we go in the Premier League. It's 2 less games you have to play in what's going to be such a congested football calendar. So I think if you can finish top, you should. And what will be interesting is Martial's due back any time now.
Oh, how long have we been saying that, Larry?
Yeah, but he's got to be. He's got to be.
I've been saying he's got to be for a month.
Yeah, well, I don't know. If he can come back fit, I think it'll really help the attacking third, and hopefully he can be back prior to Sociedad.
No, fingers crossed. Look, I think Anthony Martial, when he has been on the pitch this season, has been brilliant. So, look, fingers crossed. It's just one of those things, unfortunately, not holding my breath, but I'd love to be proven wrong. And fingers crossed he can get back into the team and sort of provide that focal point. The team is sort of unfortunately lacking a little bit through the issues surrounding Marcus Rashford as a number 9 and Ronaldo as a number 9 at the moment. Anthony Martial seems to be that perfect blend of both of them. So fingers crossed he can get fit and get back to scoring goals and performing for Man United. But hopefully everyone did enjoy that. Always positive discussing a Manchester United victory. Just one more comment here before we do wrap up, Stephen. Really enjoy the interaction tonight, mate. Europa win is more important to set the tone for the round of 16. Premier League has too many games to predict a winner at this stage. I think, and look, every game is important, of course. if you were to flip a coin and sort of weigh up exactly, if you had to put money on which game was bigger, I think all the eggs are going into this Sociedad game. I think this is the big one for Erik ten Hag, and he'd maybe take a draw. Well, not take a draw, but he'd be willing to draw a Premier League game if it guaranteed top in the Europa League group. But it will be interesting. That's only a couple of days away now, that trip to Spain. Spain, God, every time Real Sociedad doesn't scare me. Away in Spain, that scares me. I can't tell the last time we won there. I think it might have been actually when Michael Carrick was in charge. We won in Villarreal, didn't we? And I think the last one before that was maybe the Europa League semi-final. I think it might have been Celta Vigo. Marcus Rashford scored the free kick. But even when we were flying under Sir Alex Ferguson, you played away in Spain, you didn't come back with 3 points. I think the one I do remember was obviously Beckham against Deportivo La Coruña, that long strike. I think it was a 2-0 win, but a shocking record in Spain. So it does worry me, even though we're better than Sociedad. Well, to be fair, they beat us at Old Trafford, so who are we to say that? But you think we're better than Sociedad, but away in Spain is going to be very tricky. But hopefully everyone did enjoy that. As I said, if you are new, if you could hit that subscribe button, that would be great. So you can join us for our Real Sociedad preview. If you did enjoy it and are enjoying Man United's resurgence of a little bit of good form, please do leave a like on the video. It's very much appreciated. And Larry, hopefully you enjoy the rest of your Monday. I'm not sure if you're going out in that shirt to do a bit of the Halloween trick or treating, but until then, have a good one, mate.
You too, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, lads, and we'll chat to you very soon. Cheers.